As with just about any piece of wood, adding linseed oil instantly makes it beautiful. Now, let me just set this over here so I can talk to you all about this bow. As you might be able to see, we've made a little bit of progress. I've shaped the handle, I've narrowed the limb profile in each direction, as well as tapered it vertically, tapered it both this direction and this direction, and I think it's coming out quite nice. I wish I could bend it for you guys. That's not going to work. Just to give you a demonstration, let's see if the video picks this up. So far it's bending quite nicely. Somebody that looked at this told me they thought it might be a Modesto ash, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to get my t-shirt all greasy and oily here for the sake of the video, what I go through to make you guys happy. So, at this point in the game, I've got it shaped, I've got it sanded down, and at this point it's time for a process of oiling and sanding and oiling and sanding and oiling and sanding some more. And then you guessed it, oiling and sanding some more. So, how do you apply linseed oil? Liberally. Just pour it right on your rag, as much as you want, and if it gets a little messy, that's to be expected. And then start anywhere, but just make sure you give it a nice even coating all the way up and down the length of the piece of wood that you're working on, inside and out. Now, just to apply it like that is not sufficient. With wood like this, you want to force the oils into the wood grains so that helps preserve them, gives them a little more elasticity, helps them make them resistant to moisture as well as temperature. So you've got to force it in there, kind of like this. This might be a familiar motion to many of you. But that's the general idea. As goofy as it might look, you want to apply pressure. You want to, squeeze. You want to stroke. You want to force those oils, that lubrication, if you will, right into the grains of your wood. Just like that. Now, aside from the analogies and how much fun I am having making this video, also, don't forget to lubricate the tips. The tips are very, very important. That's where a lot of your grains end. And if you don't have that tip well lubricated, it's going to continue splitting and fraying over time, because the tips are often the part of the bow that take the majority of the stress. Now, after this process of sanding and lubricating and sanding some more and lubricating some more, then comes the tillering process. And at that point, if I get to that point, I don't have a board that I can use to tiller the bow with, or to bend so that I can see which limb flexes more than the other one and remove wood from the limb that flexes less to balance it out. Now, since I don't have such a tool, I'm inclined to skip that process. I've been eyeballing this thing so far, and so far so good. I mean, it looks relatively straight, relatively even, as, of course, it's obviously not perfect, but I think it's going to come out looking pretty sweet at the very least. Let's hope that it shoots just as sweet. Now, of course, putting the oil onto the surface of this wood is going to reveal any tool marks, checks, gouges, things like that, binds in the grains of the wood, things that you want to work out, because when these limbs flex, the inner portion of the bow is under compression, and so that means if you have any gouges where maybe there's an indent where those grains sort of do this number and come to an abrupt stop and then pick up again, those are going to be creases or points of pressure that are eventually going to split those grains, and you'll have long splinters coming off. And that can happen either on the belly or the back of the bow. So I want to make sure that during this process I inspect the wood carefully to make sure that I know exactly where all those little nicks, where all those binds, checks, etc., where they are, so that when I start sanding I can focus on those, get them out of there. Tool marks are not such a big deal, especially on a good hardwood like this. They will sand right out, but checks, binds, things like that, kinks if you will, in the grains of the wood, those are another problem altogether. You do want to address those. So as you can tell, I'm working up a little bit of a sweat. It is kind of hot out here today. Anyhow, this process is going to take me another hour or so just to make sure that this is well oiled, make sure I really rub the grains in there, and then I'm going to take it inside because it's kind of hot out here. I don't want to take a chance of the wood being freshly oiled and warping in the heat. So if I keep my bow in dry, cooler conditions during this process, so much the better. And remember, if you're going to make a bow and you've got a nice seasoned piece of dry hardwood that you're working with, you don't want it to get wet. So if it's raining outside and you like to work outside on your project, keep it indoors for a day or just wait until it's not raining. I've been very careful to keep this bow out of the moisture, and on hot muggy days like today, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to take it inside and where it's air conditioned and dry and keep it in there for another 24 hours. And tomorrow morning I'll do the same thing. Once I'm satisfied that this bow is saturated with linseed oil, I'll let it dry for probably a week or so before I continue working on it, and at that point begins the firing process. Now the firing process is just like it sounds. I hold it over, fire. Well, fire makes it stronger, gives it more tensile strength as well as flexibility in the limbs. So we'll talk more about that process when we get there. In the meantime, I've got my work cut out for me, and as always, I want to thank you guys for your support. I'm an amateur bow maker. This is bow number 10 or 11, I forget which. Not very good at this, but I'm having a lot of fun at it. So make sure to rate, comment, subscribe, thumb it up or thumb it down if you've got experience and you love making bows and you've got some tips or suggestions for me. I'd love to hear them. As always, thank you guys for your support and have a great day.